Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. What a beautiful morning it is. And I thank you very much for coming here this morning, and a huge thank you to the Gideon's International Organization for all the great hospitality. I want to begin by thanking each of you for listening to God and being willing to do God's will. I know that if it hadn't been for men and women like you, I and many others would not be walking with the Lord now. And I am hoping that I can encourage you as you reach out to help others. I also want to thank you on behalf of many for caring enough to share life with those who may not even realize that they need a drink of water from the only one who can give us life. My story this morning began one day about 25 years ago when I thought that I had hit rock bottom. I was sitting on a stool in my closet, lamenting where I was in life and very scared of where I seemed to be headed. I had been divorced twice and was living with a man. That relationship was not going well either. I had 3 children, no full-time job, and life was very tough. I knew that where I was not where I should have been, nor where I wanted to be. But when I looked in the mirror, all I saw was a loser and a failure. So there I sat in my closet with a gun in my hand, ready to end my life. I was angry and thought that I had come to the end of all hope. In one desperate last plea, I shouted out, assuming that no one would hear. God, I said, if for some reason I should not end my life right here, right now, then you need to do something. Just then, my son came running into the house. Mama, Mama, he called, I got something to show you. Quickly, I hid the gun, dried my eyes, and went to him. He had received a New Testament on his way home from school that day and was anxious to show it to me. A New Testament from a Gideon who was listening and doing God's will, who had no idea whose life or what kind of an impact that little book would have on someone's life that very day. We sat and I listened to the stories of a young man's school day who was very anxious to read this new book that was given to him. I can't tell you now what we read, but I do know that it was the beginning steps of a whole new chapter in my life as I began to learn about and meet Jesus face to face. Together, Jesus and I have gone to many places and done many things that back when that scared little girl sat hopelessly on a stool in a closet would never have believed that Jesus could have turned a failure and a loser into the person you see before you. Now, I do my best to listen to the promptings and nudges that keep me on the correct path, so that I may be used by my Lord. One such nudging brings to mind another story. Before I get started, I should mention that I work for the post office as a rural mail carrier. Several years ago, I was a state officer for our union, so I traveled quite a bit for all the trainings and meetings that I needed to attend. Anyway, I think the year was 2003, and we were in Portland, Maine. There was a gentleman named Greg who was from Nevada. It seemed that no matter where one of us was going, the other one would show up. It became the start of a great friendship. One evening, as he was walking me back to my hotel, we started talking some very heavy-duty, Christ-centered conversation. We wound up talking for several hours. By the time we separated ways that evening, he had accepted Jesus into his life. The next day, he told me he could barely sleep that night and commented, "Did you know that there are Bibles in the hotel rooms?" I read all night, and there's some great stories in there too. It was fun just to listen to all that he had grasped in such a short amount of time. The following day, we all went our separate ways. I remember telling him that I looked forward to seeing him at the next meeting in a couple of months. I went to the next training, hoping to hear stories of a changed life, but Greg was nowhere to be found. Finally, I found someone from Nevada and asked, "What happened to Greg?" She told me that about 2 days after he had returned home from the previous meeting, he had had a massive heart attack and died. I believe with all of my heart that God definitely has a plan for each of us, and that if we will just listen and follow his promptings, amazing things will happen. My children are all grown now and married. My eldest is a corporate lawyer in Denver and has given me the blessing of a grandson. My middle child is a stay-at-home mother of 2 grandsons in Mississippi. And my son, who was the recipient of the New Testament, did several tours in Iraq as a Marine, is now an electrical engineer working in Billings, Montana, and has blessed me with a beautiful granddaughter, and any day now, a new grandson. The blessings that God has lavished upon my family and I have been so very numerous, and I thank him for each of them. I also give God thanks and many praises for people like each of you, for all of your time and dedication that you give so others may come to know our Lord. Thank you.